Thank you, guys. I never was a comic. I suppose I very much should have liked to have been one. I would have killed, as they say. Oh, I can barely contain myself even now, so much I desire to simply burst with laughter. Oh, how I love a good joke. Even a bad one at that. Jokes, jokes, jokes. All of life and death are a never-ending parade of hilarity. If you look at it right, that is. I think it's funny that I'm in this dark, damp, and cold cell at this very moment. Our audience of rats does not seem to think so, but what do they know of humor anyway? Of course, this is a laughable situation. Why should it not be? There's no use in being sad about the gloom, the imminent, ignominious end. We might as well laugh about it, shall we not, my wretched cellmate? Oh, and here comes the funny man now, with the noose all readied and tied. Oh, he stopped to chat with the guard. About his philandering last evening, no doubt. And look with what rapt attention the guard studies the executioner. Hangs on every word, you could very well say. Oh, I know, I'm to be electrocuted, not hanged. Shocking, isn't it? Oh, well, I do upset myself with such frivolity. Ah, well, I suppose I might relate to you my dreadfully comic history, which led me to this place while I have the time. It shan't take long. And what with those two at this rate, I could very well live to see tomorrow. Wouldn't that be a laugh and a half? Oh, well, let's see. John and Bill were my best friends, you see. We had so many laughs together. I was always pulling a perfunctory prank on them or they on me. Back in our days at university, you know, the early 20s when things were not quite so roaring as they are now, our pranks excited so much rib-jabbing and ribaldry that we were nearly expelled from the school more than once. And but for the good fortunes of our father's influences, I'm certain we would have been. You see, I was raised as an American gentleman in nearly the oldest sense of the term. I was going to come into a bit of land for my father if I managed to do right by my schooling. He was most concerned with my proficiency of language, English, French, Italian, and Latin most especially. I got by mocking them. Bye-bye, you get it. Oh, well, at any rate, I suppose I did reasonably well in my education, for I did indeed inherit the piece of land and all the dreaded responsibilities included with it. I shan't go into the details of this employment for fear of boring you to death, and I have neither the time nor the means to hide your body. Oh, come now, you must admit that was simply delightful. Suffice to say, in no time at all, the tedious monotony of being landlord here in the state of New York began to wear heavily on me. I was bored. Now, as John and Bill and I grew older and supposedly more mature, our prankery, so to speak, had dropped off for a time. But as we all three came into our own in the business world, we found ourselves consumed with meaningless work and the constant chatter at even less meaningful parties and other social gatherings. I searched for purpose in life, or at least something to do that made it interesting. John and Bill were at about the same place, I think, although I suppose John had never taken it altogether too seriously, life that is, although he did take life from... Oh, never mind, you shall hear it. You shall hear what I have to say about what he took. But I am sorry. Where were we? Ah, yes, Bill and John. Despite that both of them had become relatively well-respected lawyers, John had kept up his pranking business quite nicely, and when he and Bill and I decided to meet up again, he managed to rekindle our lust for jokes and pranks and comedic timing. Oh, we enjoyed telling jokes, reading humorous stories, teasing one another now more than ever, and the pranks we pulled on each other were tremendous. Oh, these first consisted mainly of harmless, yet hilarious trip-ups and tricks, enacted primarily after we had engaged in large consumptions of home-brewed alcoholic beverages. Oh, I say this to you, my friend, knowing that my little secret of the transgressing with prohibited is quite safe with you. As if I needed to keep secrets anymore at all. We got together as often as we could at one another's houses, with the booze in tow, preparing ourselves for a grand time of laughing and daring. It was so glorious to find an escape from the routine, the mundane of the regular hours of life, which must be suffered through in order to make money, in order to eat, to sleep, to drink. Aye, there's the rub. And in that drink, what sleep may come. You'll find, my friend, that the bard is my most revered saint. This extreme joviality which we delighted ourselves to partake in soon became for us a religion. No, even more than that. It became the ultimate, the very raison d'etre. So much did I look forward to participating in the events of an evening together with my pals that betimes the actual substance of what was done was of little consequence. Though not so for John or Bill. No, it was never so for them. It seems I never truly suffered when their plans came to fruition. Yet they did. They did, and I laughed. I laughed both with them and at them. At first, we simply enjoyed the misdemeanors of comedy. The prankery was small, but steadily growing in scandal. You know the like, mocking one another as we stumbled about from our drunkenness, throwing darts at each other instead of at the board, and all of that nonsense, the general ill behavior that results from consuming too much liquor. It's hardly worth mentioning. Gradually, we found more raucous methods of entertainment. Once I knocked Bill out cold. It was reaction to John's poking or prodding of some sort, and I swung round rather more violently than I intended and accidentally knocked Bill upside the head with a jug I'd held in my hand, and not infrequently to my lips, I might add. John and I were first both so astounded we did not know how to react. We both merely stood with our hands about our faces and wondered. Quite suddenly, in our drunken stupor, one of us broke the silence with, "What do we do now?" And with the very noise of speech, Bill awoke suddenly, bewildered, no doubt, wondering what had just happened to him. John and I literally hit the floor with laughter, and so we all three lay there in our revelry and belly-aching buffoonery. Oh, that those times could have lasted forever. And they might have, but for the general progression which had been set in motion that none of us foresaw, nor could any one of us stop once we had begun it. After that event, we all realized the tinge of desire for more and more violent and sinister tricks. We did not consciously know it, but our souls were now on the road to becoming totally lost in prurience. We only longed for deeper, more evil, laughter-inducing fits, which were in reality more full of rage than mirth. We secretly began to harbor ill feelings toward each other, and eventually we came to truly loathe one another. It is amazing how many paths a man can walk down, is it not? Of course you wish you had chosen another, as do I, but I do not really think I could have chosen any other. It was predestined that I should die this way, and you too. Thus to all of humanity, wherever the fates lead us, go we unarmed. Oh, how foolish to compete with destiny. Yet it was at this time, too, that we began to compete with one another. We did not out and out admit to such competition, but each understood the goal of our sanctimonious meetings. We wanted to see whose wits were worthiest of worship. Blasphemy, you say, and right you may very well be, but how many others supposedly God-fearing have you borne witness to who have done the exact same thing to a man, yet not named it worship? Oh, the irony is quite funny, you know. It's always permissible to laugh, by the way. I shan't hold it against you if you ever do so at an awkward time. You needn't worry, my dear friend. No. You needn't worry at all. Next in my memory of our exploits was the incident with John's black cat. Bill and I had assembled ourselves, along with the gin. We must not forget the gin. The gin and the grin, my friend. Anyhow, we were at John's abode this particular evening. It was to be simply delightful. As we sat and mocked the horrid state of affairs of Mrs. Jenkins and her latest paramour, she was simply a neighbor, you understand, John brought in his cat Celia for what he said was guaranteed to be an amusing diversion. Bill and I, of course, scoffed at that, while secretly suspecting that John was about to attempt to play the rook on us in some completely horrid and yet wonderful way, which we would then have to outdo each ourselves in order to win adoration and praise of the others. Well, perhaps we did not suspect all of that, but that's how it turned out to be. As he petted the small Cimmerian beast, he slowly withdrew a bone-handled knife he had concealed in his pocket and smiled wryly at us. He held the animal tightly to his breast, and to our utter astonishment and horror, he began to cut out its left eye. The cat squirmed and meowed. Blood squirted on my shoes. She scratched at her master and made an awful noise which I will never forget. Finally, she freed herself from her gleeful captor. As you can imagine, Bill and I trembled in our chairs. We followed the cat's path with our eyes as it fled from the room. We both simply sat staring in wonder at the corner which Celia had rounded when she disappeared from our field of vision. Still in awe, I slowly turned toward the man whom Bill and I had earlier both respected. I could hold it back no longer. What business had he in doing such a thing? I pondered aloud. None. None at all, came Bill's answer, quite unexpectedly. Then I recalled what had brought us here and the general state we had been in, and I began to wonder if there was not a catch to this, but no sooner had I hopped on this train of thought than at the next moment my eye happened upon hers. He still had the cat's eye in his very hand. In the horror of the thing, I had almost forgotten what it was that had actually taken place. Oh, there it is again, that irony. Oh, laugh with me, you must. What an event. It was already sinfully delicious. And as if the situation begged to get even worse, John obliged. In a rather matter-of-fact manner, he simply popped the thing in his mouth and ate it whole. Oh! Bill and I simultaneously shuddered. Why did you do that? I asked. Why? Why indeed? My friend, we must have sat there for ages waiting for an answer. It felt as though the cat's 9 lives were being stripped away year by year as each minute passed. At length, he tried to change the subject, but we would not let him. He shifted about in his seat uneasily. At last, he let out a shrill laugh. Oh, come now, gentlemen, you don't think I really just cut out my cat's eye and ate it, do you? Somehow, this very frank description of the occurrence made it that much more terrifying. Yet there was a part of me that thrilled at, yes, even enjoyed this terror. It is the kind of thrilling terror one feels when one imagines the truth to the prophecy given by the weird witches to Macbeth after they had mixed their eye of newt into the bubbling cauldron. I now had my own such eye to stir into my soup to give me what I wanted. As soon as I experienced this feeling, I craved it all the more. Would you believe the eye? That eye that I just swallowed was in fact an eye of a fish that I bought at the market this morning, and not that of a cat. To our amazement, John produced a fish. A flounder, actually, with its one remaining eye. No, that's not possible, Bill said at first. Well, go ahead and get the cat and see if you wish, said John with a victorious smile. I knew it was true. The details did not matter, and even before Bill came back into the room with a relatively unharmed, 2-eyed Celia, a chuckle had started to rise from my belly. It soon became a booming laugh, and my friends joined in with me. I had you! I had you! John repeated with relish over and over again. Oh, and we enjoyed the moment. It is true. We had been had, but it felt so uniquely wonderful. I almost immediately started plotting the revenge I would take on John for the trickery he had led Bill and me into. But before I could enact my plot, a much graver situation ensued. Or so I thought. Mustn't give it away now, sorry. The next time we got together, I had not worked everything out perfectly smoothly for my joke, but I had resolved to go ahead with it anyway. At the very least, we could all share a laugh in my feeble attempt. And besides, the lust for that splendidly awful feeling was eating away at my stomach daily. We were meeting at Bill's place this time. Just before I could set my plan in motion, however, the telephone rang. It was a relative of John's who called to inform him that his mother had just passed away and that he was needed at once in Virginia to make arrangements for the funeral. This was indeed a shock, and certainly no place for a joke, it seemed at the time. I relayed the news to John, then put him on the phone with the relative. John, of course, was heartbroken. He came into the den where Bill and I were waiting for him and burst into tears in our very arms. I had never before nor since seen him so. I tried to comfort him, but it was no use. They had evidently been quite close, his mother and he. He said he was not at all expecting her death, and that everything had seemed fine from her letters. Why, she had never even been sick. And she had so much to do and so many places yet to see. She was a great traveler, his mother, you see. She had still not been to France. Oh, and she was such a hardy woman, he went on and on. Oh, it was just terrible. As all three of us began to prepare John for his difficult journey down south, Bill let something slip out. I could not believe my ears. And at once that sinful sensation consisting of simultaneous lustful hatred and love rushed to my brain again. I bathed my mind in the beauty of it as I began to laugh. "Oh, come now, gentlemen," quoth he, mocking John's own tone as he did so. "You don't really think I killed my mother, do you?" And oh, we were at it again. How we praised Bill. I had you all," said he, and we laughed and we laughed. Oh, John did not laugh quite as hard as Bill or I did, but eventually he joined in the celebration of Bill's brilliance. What? You don't see the hilarity of it? Oh, but your senses are too acute. Come now, learn to laugh at everything. Life is really a game, is it not? Or at least a play acted poorly or some such rubbish. Relax and loosen your belly. You must hear the rest of my tale. You must! There we are. Right. Now that you're settled again, let us continue. Oh, it was quite a laugh that we had. Enjoyable yet off-putting to observers, no doubt. We too recognized the grotesque nature of the jest, yet there was something in that very nature that spurred us on for more. And again, I was back at the drawing board to think of better ideas for getting back at Bill and John, garnering their worship instead of having to praise them for their joke of genius. It was my turn! So I set in motion the inevitable, the very plan that resulted in my ending up here next to you, another dragged here by the fates and the furies. No, I do not fault you for your deeds, my friend. You merely are who you are, as I am who I am, though I shall not be for long. Thankfully, however, the executioner is even more long-winded than myself. Oh, laughter. It's eternal peace. I laugh at the grave now. What is to stop me from laughing in the hereafter? Oh, but enough of this. To the night of the incident, you must hear my tale. I had thought through every detail of the murder. It was not to be a real murder, you see, just another prank. I was going to fool them both so entirely that they would never stop praising me for it. Oh, the laughter we would have together! It was to be so sweet. You see, my tenants had just moved out from the place, and I was going over the grounds to make sure that all was in order. And during this inspection, I encountered upon my property some kind of underground storage room that I had not noticed before. It had apparently been used by my father for keeping his fly fishing gear, some old shovels and gardening tools and other miscellaneous items in so as not to bother my mother. It was a small place, hidden and unobtrusive, and a good distance away from the house that sits forebodingly on the property. I had grown to hate the house itself, along with the large area of land that it sits upon, never mind having to deal with its constant upkeep. I knew that I could use this storage area to my advantage in a prank, and I was eager to do so. And then the idea came to me, almost fully formed, and of course I could not stop laughing. Oh, the cleverness of me! Oh, but my shadow had stayed with me like a curse since that evening. It was on a night much like this one. Bill and John had just arrived on the property. I lingered a moment longer in the doorway after having let them in. Numerous clouds that may have been bright white morning slowly moved across the blackened sky. As they drifted, they steadily revealed a quiet, brilliantly shining half-moon. A few stars twinkled through the clouds to my left. Serenity and silence. It was enough to make a man quite mad. I turned to my friends and offered them the libations customary for such a sacred gathering of ours. As they sat down, we took up the liturgy of small talk and jokes, and the service progressed quite nicely. I mentioned that I had a curiosity, which I thought John in particular might like to see. Naturally, I was sure he suspected something, but he played along. "Let's have it out then." And with that, we went to visit my father's underground storage room. I left it as much as it was, or at least as much so as I could, trying not to disturb even the cobwebs here and there so as not to take away from the distinctively musty and mysterious decor of the place. I had only set up and prepared for the prank as much as was necessary. I knew that John had once enjoyed delving into the sciences as a hobby when he was younger. "A microscope allows one to catch a glimpse of other worlds within our own," he said to me one summer afternoon in our youth. I did not forget that. Because I knew of John's interest in microscopes, I now decided to use the one that my father had kept in the storage room in my prank. Oh, everything was set up perfectly. My father collected some choice samples of native conifers, I informed my friends as we descended the steps to the underground compartment. "I thought you gentlemen would surely want to take a look at them through this old microscope." I said this more for John than for Bill, mind you. I knew that Bill's interest for at least a few moments would be held, but that he would soon want to return to the comfort of the house. Neither he nor I had ever cared much for the sciences. Now, sure enough, after about 10 minutes of viewing and discussing the plants amongst ourselves, Bill informed John and me that he was going to return to the house for his glass of gin. I saw that my suspicions about John had been correct. His passion for the sciences seemed to be rekindled. Oh, and it was so perfect. My plans were working so well. As Bill and I started to go, I told John he was welcome to stay and view the rest of my father's collection of slides. John must not have even heard me. He was so engrossed in his study, he did not answer me at all. Oh, this is working so beautifully, I thought. I really am a genius. I accompanied Bill halfway back to the house, but I told him that I had forgotten to tell John something special about several of the slides, and that certain of them were extremely fragile. Bill was just fine, heading back to the house alone, and now I had my chance. I turned to head back, but made sure that Bill made it to the house before he could turn around and see what I was doing. I had thought of everything, you see. I had hidden some chloroform and a small cloth by some trees not far from the storage room. I now retrieved these items and readied myself to pull the ultimate prank. The plan, you see, was to head back into the storage room. Having already doused the cloth with a chemical, I had a hunch that John would not even look up from the microscope when I came in. I would ask him how he was finding the particular slide he was studying. Walk up behind him casually, then quickly slip the cloth over his mouth and nose, effectively putting him to sleep. I had taken some red dye and mixed it with water so that it looked very much like blood. My next step was to procure this mixture that I had hidden in the room and make it look as though John had died a bloody death. Then I was going to jerry-rig the door to the room so that it would appear to be stuck. Oh, this is delightful. Don't you see? Every detail. Finally, I would walk back to the house and ask for Bill's assistance in opening the door. I called to him several times, but he must not have been able to hear me. He must have been too busy at the microscope to have heeded my voice. "I wonder if you wouldn't mind assisting me in opening the stubborn thing," I would say. Oh, I had rehearsed it so many times. I had imagined Bill's face most of all. I had imagined how it would look when I recited my lines perfectly, how innocently he would have obliged me, how he would react to John's blood-laden form, the look on his face when I had taken John's pulse and found that he was dead. Oh, it was to be filthy and gorgeous. We would all remember the moment together with great fondness for years to come. Oh, only John, after he awoke, of course, you know. Oh, and there would be joy, envious joy, and it would be enough for me to live on for a long time, perhaps even the rest of my life, the rest of my life. Oh, but that's been cut much shorter now, hasn't it, my dear friend? Yes, it has. And all because of what actually happened, what really transpired on that night, instead of what I had planned. Fate is cruel. I opened the door, and John was already dead. Really dead. Not sleeping from the chloroform, no. I stood there with a soaked rag in my hand in disbelief. I was late. I should have killed him earlier. It would have been better. Now I could not act on my plan. My perfectly, beautifully formed plan. I looked at his eyes. They were still open. His dead eyes stared back at me. His body was completely still in the chair, but his neck now allowed his head to drop backward over it so that his upside-down blank stare was the first thing anyone who entered the room saw. Blood ran down from his lips to his left eye, and I suddenly thought of Celia. Oh, the horrible little beast. I could not get her wretched meowing scream out of my head. The eye! The eye! It haunted me like the dagger did Macbeth. Though I had not done the deed, I looked away, yet I still saw it before me and heard the cursed yowl in my ears. I turned completely round. You could not see anything but the eye, the bloodied eye in my way. I could not walk. I could not move. I could not think without its presence looming over me, its continual vacant stare. I couldn't stand it. I could not live this way. I just knew it would go on forever if I didn't act. It had to come out. I lunged at the damned taunting thing and plunged my fingers into the cavity and withdrew the culprit from its lair. I had blood on my shoes again. You! I shouted at it. You shall be the death of me! Just then, the door swung open. It was Bill. He had returned unexpectedly. No! I screamed in my mind, yet my voice let out no sound. I trembled as he stared at me with his mouth agape. You monster! What in hell have you done? He roared at me. I could not think of anything to say. I just stood there, holding John's bloody left eye in my hand. Then all at once I knew what I had to do. It was easier than I thought. I just took a shovel and swung. Oh, his head had turned right round. Just like John's. Oh, they were quite a pair, the two of them. A regular freak show. Now my masterpiece was complete. What to do with the bodies? I hadn't thought of that. No, I hadn't. What to do with them, what to do. How to hide them from the rest of the world, and what to say to the police. No, officer, nothing happened here. We just got a little bit turned around, that's all. Still, something had to be done with them. I decided I would dig graves for them both. They were my best friends, after all. I couldn't risk making any more grave mistakes. Get it? Grave mistake. Oh, but laugh, and now I cry in vain. I failed. I failed again. I moved the bodies, but I kept John's eye in my left hand. I couldn't let it haunt me. It was too much to take. I had to move Bill's body because it was blocking the door. But in the process, I bumped into John's as well. It was then I made the discovery, the horrid, wonderful discovery. Oh, I hate him, I hate him. I'm glad he's dead. I'm glad, I tell you. His eye never released me from its gaze. I dropped it to take the note out of his hand. I'm sure it enjoyed that moment. I know that eye relished the look on my face when I read the note. I can see the eye even now staring at me from the storage room floorboards. I laughed and cried as loudly as I could. I laughed harder and harder, desperately trying to drown out the shrieks of the cat, which rang in my ears louder than ever before as I read the words, I had you, I had you.